I don't want to do this. Despite having done a bunch of map challenges on my channel and making maps for my own games, I still wasn't very good at making D&D maps. But in this video, I'm trying to change that. And if my maps aren't professional grade by the end of this video, then I have to shave off my mustache. God, I don't want to do this. To help me get better at making maps, I brought in a professional. He gave me 5 tips to level up my map game that I'm going to share with you. I put those tips to the test by making some pro grade maps, or at least I tried to. What is a pro grade map? Well, I gave myself 1 week to sell 100 copies of my map pack. If 100 people bought my maps with their hard-earned dollars, then I think it's safe to say that they're pro grade. Although that does seem like a lot, I don't think I've ever sold 100 of anything, but it's too late now. I've already committed. Thank you so much to Describe for sponsoring this video. Describe is always down to support my wild video ideas, which I'm very grateful for. Welcome to the table. I'm Kelly, and I'm starting to think that this video may have been a maps in judgment. If I have to shave my mustache, I'm not going to be able to make jokes like that anymore. Anyways, let's meet our professional.
I'm Birdie Maps. I make D&D, fantasy, and sci-fi battle maps.
He's a full-time map artist on Patreon, and he makes a bunch of really cool maps. And he makes free versions for all of his maps. His information is linked down below. He's kindly agreed to share his trade secrets with me so that maybe I don't have to shave my mustache. I hope you know that the stakes are through the roof for me on this.
Maybe it will save your mustache.
Before I could get better, I needed to know what I was doing wrong. So as embarrassing as this was, I needed to show Thomas my terrible map for him to critique. Okay. Don't hold back. Tell me everything that's wrong with it.
I would say the terrain can get a little bit more variety.
Yeah, okay, yeah.
As well as some cluttering small plants would be missing in the exterior areas. First thing I noticed, the lack of shadows.
Okay.
Makes a huge difference, especially around the fencing and the walls. There's no lighting. Lighting takes a little bit more time.
Yeah.
There's missing some elevation. It's very flat.
Yeah, that's true. That's
How
true.
much planning did you had beforehand?
No planning.
All right. Okay. That's some classic rookie mistakes.
Okay. It was worse than I thought. But that's okay. I'm just going to use Thomas's magic formula, and my maps are going to be amazing. So you're saying there's no magic formula?
You have to practice a little bit. It's like juggling. It's like doing any kind of sport. You get better over time.
Oh boy. All right. Well, I do have a map pack idea that I'm really excited about that I think will be helpful for people. But first, I just need to make some good maps. All right, Thomas, what's your first magic tip?
The first tip would be imagine that you are in the map.
Okay.
Like theater of mind, you could say. You walk this map. Imagine you're the laziest person that would live there and design it like this. Imagine the first room. This is the housing area. The housing area needs a kitchen. Okay, I go to the kitchen. The kitchen, I don't want to walk 5 minutes to the other end. No, I want the storage area next to the kitchen.
Yeah.
All right, I need a toilet area, bathroom over here, and sleeping area. It's also a great opportunity to develop some storytelling within the maps.
Okay.
If the situation is like the storage is far away from the working area, you can put a lot of footprints in the line between, so it looks like a lot of people have walked this way.
That's true. Okay. I'm using Dungeondraft to make these maps, but most of these tips apply to any map making software. The idea for the map pack overall is better travel encounters. Travel encounters that have built-in ideas for how to tie them into your main story, and then also some additional lore in case you want to spin them off into a full standalone adventure. My idea for this first map is a toll bridge over a chasm where undead shadows are attacking travelers crossing the bridge because they've been disturbed by a necromancer that entered the ancient tomb at the bottom of the chasm. Keeping Thomas's words in mind, I thought about who would live there and what they would need. Normally when I start making a map, I get to a point where I put down the basic elements and then I kind of don't know what else to put into the map. But once I actually started thinking about it, this is a toll bridge, so obviously there's a bridge keeper of some sort. They need somewhere to live. They have a house next to the bridge. They also have braziers on the bridge, so they need wood to feed those braziers, so they probably have a wood stack next to their house. And then they also need to get the wood from somewhere, so there are some chopped logs in the forest. Just like Thomas said, imagining a full day in this location helped a ton in trying to figure out exactly how everything should be laid out. The last step was to add some lighting and a post-processing workflow, which I came up with, and I'll share that at the end of the video, all the little tips and tricks that I've come up with. Honestly, that already feels like a huge improvement, but I just hope it'll be enough. On to tip number 2.
Develop some kind of pipeline or workflow.
Yeah.
For me, it's like I start out with the cliffs,
Okay.
terrain, and walls first. Then I focus on either the exterior of the map or the interior.
Okay.
But not both at the same time. Usually, the exterior is mostly plants and nature, a whole different set of assets.
Yeah.
And we want to use one asset as much as possible. So, for example, you have a barrel. Then you want to place a barrel in every room you want to have a barrel.
Okay.
Don't switch to a barrel again. Saving clicks.
Yes, that makes sense. I switch back and forth a lot. Okay. Okay. Working title for map number 2 is Crossing the Depths. This is actually based on an idea we came up with on our podcast called We Like D&D, where we built a Fallout adventure. Your players will come across a deep river with large stepping stones to get across. In the center of the river, there's a cage hanging over the water with a little girl in it, and she's asking for help. As your players get nearer, it obviously looks like some kind of trap, but what your players won't realize until they spring the trap is the little girl is a wraith, and she has a symbiotic relationship with the monster in the depths, and she lures in people and feeds on their souls, and the monster feeds on their bodies. So that's what this map is about. Thomas's second tip was all about a pipeline and coming up with a consistent workflow, and that was really helpful as well. The other thing I struggle with when I make maps is just not knowing where to begin. You start with this blank canvas and you could add anything, but having a specific sequence that you go through, like cliffs first, then terrain, then walls if you're doing a building, floors, interior, and details. I really tried to take this on here by starting with my cliffs, adding my river as the most important element, then doing the other terrain, then adding the stepping stones in the middle, and forest around, and then adding in little details like rocks and logs and other things. But having a set sequence that you work in means you always know what you're doing next. You always know where you're starting, and you always know what comes next. So you just move through the steps, and at the end, you have a map. Thomas's third tip wasn't something I was expecting, and I honestly didn't know if it would help that much.
For interiors or city exteriors, try to place the assets in a roughly good position.
Okay.
It doesn't have to be precise. I saw in your videos that you try to align everything perfectly,
Yeah.
which costs a lot of time. Just roughly place them in the direction where you want them. And always remember, you can place the assets wherever you like. So you don't have to place them in the room in the correct direction. You can place it next to the room and put it into the room later.
Oh, okay.
Just so you have your collection of assets available that you need.
Okay. I'm definitely willing to try that. The idea for this encounter is based on the original Spider-Man trilogy. I haven't watched it recently. I don't know why it came to mind, but I was thinking about the scene where the Green Goblin hides in the burning building to lure in Spider-Man, and I thought that would be a great D&D encounter. So this encounter is an ambush. After your players bed down for the night in an inn, they hear an explosion, and they run out to find the burning ruins of a building. Screams are coming from inside, and if they rush in to investigate, they find that there are fiendish, fire-resistant assassins waiting amongst the debris and that spring out and attack them. When Thomas gave this tip about placing all the assets outside of a room quickly and then bringing them in, I thought it was really minor, but after doing it, I realized it makes a big difference in how fast you can do things. You can just waste so much time clicking through the interface, searching for an asset, dragging it, placing it, switching to your placement tools, moving it around, tweaking it, then going back to your search interface to look for more assets. It really does save a lot of time just to search through furniture tags or general tags, pull all the things that you could possibly need onto your map, and then you can spend time placing them, deleting things. Then once you have everything in a rough arrangement, you can always add more stuff if you need it, or delete stuff if you find you have too much. I was skeptical at first, but Thomas is a pro. He knows what he's talking about. After actually doing it, it made way more sense, and it was way faster. At this point, I was actually starting to feel confident. Oh, you sweet summer child. You have no idea what's about to happen. Before I carried on making maps, I needed to find out if I was even on the right track. So I reached out to David from Describe, who's sponsoring this video, to see if they wanted to turn one of my maps into a fully interactive map with description text and make it available on Describe. Now, I have a long-standing relationship with Describe, so that gives me an advantage. But they are running a professional business, and the maps that they offer on there are super high quality, so they're not just going to let any map on there. So I sent an email off to David and nervously waited for his response. If David didn't like my maps, someone who already likes me, then how was I going to convince 100 people to buy them? But luckily, I didn't have to wait long because he wrote back right away. Before I open his reply, I want to tell you about all the cool stuff that you can get access to with the 30-day free trial on Describe using the code PowerWordSpill. As I mentioned, they have a bunch of fully interactive maps with description text from talented artists and writers. Speaking of description text, they also have a library of over 15,000 descriptions to inspire you. Everything from monsters to villains to locations to spells or anything else you can think of. They also have Opus, which is their music and sound effects platform that gives you access to over 7,200 music, ambience, and sound effects tracks. Opus lets you organize your descriptions, music, and sound effects into blocks. This means you'll have everything ready exactly when you need it. They have pre-made collections for pretty much every scenario you can imagine, or you can make your own. Behind the scenes, they've been busy updating Opus. Recently, they did a massive UI overhaul, and they've added a persistent audio engine so your music never gets interrupted, even if you're hopping around between collections. Okay, let's see what David's email said. He said yes. It doesn't mean my mustache is safe yet, but it's a really good sign. So that also means that you can get access to this map with fully interactive descriptions for free during that 30-day trial. And you can download it so it's yours forever. It's linked down below if you want to check it out. Riding high from David's email, I carried on making my last 2 maps. Just 2 more to go before I have to put them out into the world and find out if I have to tell everyone in my life the reason I shaved off my mustache was because I lost a bet with myself in a YouTube video. Honestly, that's the real punishment. But that's not going to happen because Thomas's last 2 tips are going to be so killer that they're going to guarantee my success, right?
Consider to use some mods to speed up your mapping process.
Okay.
There's one specifically, it's Scatterbrush. It expands the scatter tool to be a brush instead of placing a single object, and you can set a whole forest in minutes.
Oh, wow. Okay. Well, that sounds great. The setup for this encounter is that your players see flashing lights in the night sky as they journey. Each night they get brighter, and on the 3rd day they discover this scene, which is the aftermath of some kind of summoning ritual. There's still some remnant magic here, and some small beings are coming through the summoning circle, and the whole thing looks like it's destabilizing, so your players will need to fight them off and disrupt the summoning circle stones in order to close the summoning circle and prevent some sort of catastrophic event. The detail that I think is particularly intriguing is that your players find a set of footprints leading away from the summoning circle, large, unfamiliar footprints that seem completely alien, and with each step they slowly morph into humanoid footprints, and they lead in the direction that your players are traveling. So somewhere up ahead, some fey being or other planar being is hiding in human form, and they'll need to find out why. I've always found that just dropping in something mysterious or enticing and not fully explaining it yet is a great asset to have, because you can always use that to tie it into a main story point later and really blow your players' minds. Thomas's 4th tip was using mods, and I didn't even know that you could use mods in Dungeondraft, so this has opened up a whole new world for me. The main mod that he recommended was the Scatterbrush tool, and it is awesome. It takes a little bit of tweaking to get used to. You have to dial in the values. I found that using the natural clumped value, and then depending on the assets that I'm using, I just tweak the different parameters and sliders until I get something that looks pretty good. But this really allows you to scatter tons of rocks and trees and bushes and other things in a realistic way that would take a long time by hand. The other one that's been really huge for me is this light asset pack, which comes with a ton of different shaped lights, but I'll talk more about that in the next tip. My other idea that I've incorporated into each of these maps is that they all come with a second broken version. So in this one specifically, as your players start to disrupt the ritual stones, the whole thing starts to collapse in on itself, and the ground around the ritual circle starts to cave in and expose a lava pit. After a number of rounds beyond that, the whole circle collapses into the lava pit and the ground smooths over as if nothing ever happened. The last tip isn't something that Thomas and I had time to delve into because honestly it's a whole video in itself, but he did hint at how important it is. and that's lighting and post-processing. Coming up with the lighting and post-processing workflow made such a huge difference in the quality of my maps that I wanted to share all the little tips and tricks that I learned along the way. The idea for the last encounter is a tavern that's been bewitched by a hag. Everything seems normal when they walk in, except that no one will talk to them or acknowledge them except the tavern keeper. After a little bit of investigating, or if the players try and interact physically with any of the patrons, the true scene is revealed and the hag reveals herself. The people of this village faced a terrible disease that killed their crops and animals, so they made a deal with the hag for more food. Unfortunately, because she's a hag, she made some of the villagers into stew and fed it to the rest of them. There's some additional lore that I came up with about a hag coven nearby, but I think this is a fun travel encounter and maybe something that your players haven't come across before. I found that using Thomas's tips really made the design and layout of my maps significantly better, and it also helped with the creative blocks I used to get at various parts of the map making process. But definitely the thing that increased the visual quality of my maps the most was adding lighting and a post-processing workflow that I came up with. The first thing that I learned with lighting is that it's better to start with less and add more. I'd start by turning my ambient lighting down to a pretty low level, even for daylight scenes, and often shifting it blue so I get a little bit of the blue shadow. Then I would pick a direction for my light to come from. This is really important. Pick one direction for your global light to come from. That's your sun source or your moon source or whatever the main source of global lighting is in your scene. Then I used different shaped lights to add big global lighting in a single direction, and I usually shifted that a little bit warmer. Now in that same light pack, there's also a bunch of shadow elements, but I found this easier to do in Photoshop, or you can use any similar image editing software, but you could do it in Dungeondraft itself if you wanted to. After I placed my big global lights and the smaller lights around my scene, I exported the map. I brought it into Photoshop, and then by hand, I drew shadows onto every single object. This part was super time consuming, but it does make a really big difference in adding a lot of depth to your map. Just take a soft brush with like a 25% opacity, make it pure black, and then just draw on the side where the shadow should be. So pick a direction where your light's coming from. For example, in this scene, my light's coming from the top, so I just drew shadow along the bottom of every single object. The shadows surprisingly really don't need to be accurate at all. You just use a big brush and draw on everything. It helps if you overlap the shadow side of the object as well as behind the object, and it's so subtle that to my eye, it looks really good. I'm sure there are people that disagree, but I think with the shadows, they are subtle enough that you won't really be noticing them. This only applies to outdoor objects. Indoor objects will probably have different shadows, and I didn't really put shadows in the indoor objects, but you could. After that, I created a sun ray effect by selecting the highlights in my scene and then directionally blurring them. Then the last step was to tweak some colors using the hue saturation adjustments. If I wanted my greens to be slightly more yellow or more blue, I would just play around with the colors until I found something that I liked, and then just added a bit of contrast on top. And then the last step, I added a paper texture as an overlay just to give it a bit of noise in the shadows and felt like it added something a little bit extra. And that's the whole lighting and post-process workflow. And that's my 5th map done. Finishing up the last map, I was honestly just really fired up about the maps that I'd made. I was proud of them and I was excited to use them in my own games, no matter what happened in the next 7 days. But that moment of pride and joy was short-lived as reality came crashing back in and I hit publish on DriveThruRPG. Then I waited. First thing the next morning, I logged into DriveThruRPG. That's not what I was hoping to see. 0 sales. This was bad. Really bad. So I made a community post and a Patreon post and I left it for a couple days. I did my best to fight the temptation to log into DriveThruRPG every hour and refresh the page. Then on Thursday morning, halfway through the 7 days, I logged in and I had sales. Oh, look at that. People actually spent money on my map pack. For a moment, I completely forgot my goal and I was just purely excited. But then I caught a flash of green out of the corner of my eye and I saw it there, taunting me. The buzz echoing in my mind. So in a last-ditch effort, I made a short. Do you want to know the secret to more interesting travel in D&D? I posted it on YouTube, TikTok, and Instagram, and then I prayed to the old gods and the new. And that brings us to now. The deadline passed last night, and I haven't looked in 3 days. My wife Loren tallied up the numbers last night, and she put the results in this envelope. I don't want to open it. I've had a mustache for 5 years. That's a significant portion of my life. I don't even remember what I look like without a mustache. I really don't want to shave it. I really, really don't want to shave it. Just got to do it. Just got to open it. Oh. Oh. Why'd I do this? Well, I guess my maps aren't quite pro grade yet, according to my own made up metric, but I wanted to say thank you so much to Thomas from Birdie Maps for chatting with me. I learned an absolute ton, and to be honest, I'm really happy with how much they've improved, and I'm excited to keep practicing, like he said, so maybe one day they'll be pro grade. In the meantime, if you do want my non-pro grade map back, it's still available on DriveThruRPG, and it's also available on Patreon as of today. Okay. I don't want to do this. Enough stalling. Enough stalling. Here we go. Ah! Oh, this is so bizarre. Lauren's gonna divorce me now.
No.
Lauren's gonna leave me.
No.
Look, babe.
Probably not.
Look, babe. That's normal.